See Brian DEMARS, RIW Hobbies, Livonia, Michigan. It is time for round 8 of Grand Prix Indianapolis 2012.
And John Escosa, your draft is waiting on you. Draft 14, Chris Cubanus, Peter Frank, and John Escosa.
Hello everyone, and welcome to round 8 of Grand Prix Indianapolis 2012 with me, Rich Hagan, and Mr. Sheldon Menery. Welcome along to the battle of Brian DEMARS. There you see him, up against Rob Dougherty, wearing an Ascension Chronicle of the Godslayer shirt. Well, I guess you're entitled to do that if you co-designed it.
I suppose. Mars, of course, wearing the RIW hobby shirt, popularized by Michael Jacob.
Indeed. But without the hat.
Yes, right. Yes, Brian DEMARS, no Michael Stipe vibe going on there. Do I need to tell you who Michael Stipe is?
Thing is, yes, you do. And I was going, shall I just shut up? But since you bring it up, the name does seem vaguely familiar, but I do not know who Michael Stipe is.
He is the lead singer for a group called REM.
Oh, one of those popular rhythm beat combos. Okay.
Scott Larrabee right now is cursing your name. He's
well,
saying, Rich Hagan, hate that guy.
Well, that's Scott Larrabee. He should have some taste in music. That's all I'm saying. He'll never know. Delver's Secrets. From Rob Dougherty.
I do have a text from Scott Larrabee.
That was quick.
And he says to tell you that Jonathan Winters is the American Benny Hill.
Okay, that works. I get that.
DEMARS going for the tutor.
Oh,
Drugstore Reader?
No, that'll be this will be Thopter.
Oh, it's Thopter. Okay.
This will be Thopter.
Oh, okay. Now I see it. At the angle, I was like,
yeah.
What the heck? That was.
Yes. No, this is going to be Thopter's sword with probably some stone forges and other things going on.
I'm sure our crack staff will get us the deck lists for these two titans of the gridiron.
Yeah, hopefully. But we already know pretty much what Dougherty's involved. He's going to return an island for days. Well, just for a moment, but 2 days. And the found
Peter Frank, your draft is waiting on you. Draft 14 is waiting on you. Peter Frank.
We'll also see if we can get our crack staff to get Rob Dougherty to move his graveyard and library into the shop.
If you sign up for Commander 10, your event is going to start with me at the meeting place.
DEMARS to 16. Here come the deck lists, so we get to see exactly what Brian DEMARS is
Commander
playing.
10
Thank you,
and
Sean
Draft
Miller.
14, please meet at the meeting place to the left of the stage.
Sword of the Meek, Thopter, Tezzeret.
Nice to see an Ensnaring Bridge in there. That's a card I like a lot.
Also, is that Humility?
Yes, I believe it is. I want a PTQ with Humility. What a great card. Am I revealing too much of myself with Ensnaring Bridge and Humility and the counter spells?
In EDH parlance, you are a griefer. You delight in other people's misery.
And yet, personally, I really don't. You know? But I understand what you mean by that. So, Rob Dougherty having a little look at the other half of the Thopter sword combo, having dealt with the Thopter part of the equation, now decides Sword of the Meek will duly appear.
And there are only 2 swords in DEMARS' deck. Of course, there are 4 Thopter Foundries.
So the deal with that combo is whenever a 1/1 creature enters the battlefield under your control with Sword of the Meek, you may return Sword of the Meek from your graveyard to the battlefield, then attach it to that
Frank,
creature.
this is your last call for draft
The Thopter
14.
Foundry generates the 1/1s, the Sword of the Meek.
We will move you to a
It's all
different
a
draft.
nice loop. So second Delver comes down.
Dan Hernandez, your top 4 match for the Legacy Championship Preliminary is waiting for you. Dan Hernandez, your top 4 match is waiting for you.
And DEMARS is, do you know, I don't want that kind of pressure, so I'm going to force it. And Dougherty was still with 5 cards in hand, could force the issue but chooses not to, so he will stick with just his inset arm. Aberration. And DEMARS will pass the turn with 2 lands, so the Wasteland from Dougherty, pretty important, certainly thus far.
Yeah, as we've talked earlier today, Wasteland is a significant card in this format.
Yeah. One of my 2-minute drills came up with mana's completely perfect, except for Wasteland.
Right.
And then, yeah.
I think Rob is about to ponder. The very, very techie player rewards textless ponder.
It's Brainstorm in amongst the 3. So we're in the penultimate round of day 1.
That means last but 1, yes?
Yes, as in Penumbra Bobcat. Penumbra 1. The bit before the shadow, kind of. So the ponder has finished resolving, and Dougherty doesn't have a second land. Does have any amount of force of will action. It wouldn't surprise me if this gets forced to Brainstorm. No, it's going to say okay. I'm a little surprised at that because on the face of it, we know that DEMARS missed the land drop. Getting rid of Brainstorm, getting the Brainstorm pretty much probably guarantees him he can find a land. I'm surprised at that. And now his sense is divining top. Well, maybe you force this. Or maybe Dougherty is at the point with DEMARS at 9 where you just go, well, that's a 3-turn clock. Anything that doesn't stop me winning in 3 turns,
right,
I will let happen. In 6. So we're going to see a Brainstorm from Dougherty here.
He certainly has enough blue backup for that force of will in his hand.
Oh, in the biggest way, yeah. It's drawn into a ponder. We're both peering round the side of the monitor just in case it's visible from back there.
So funny that Rich and I, at the same time, leaned sideways to try to look at Rob Dougherty's hand.
I'm really sorry about that, everyone at home. It's round 8. That's my only excuse. Wrap around monitors here at Indy. There's no hope for us, Sheldon. It's over. So, now let's have the other half of the combo. And this time, surely, Dougherty says, well, how about not? And he is ready to go pitch Brainstorm and force. And, well, he's certainly revealed now that that's what he can do because he's just taken 2 cards out of his hand to telegraph it.
He knows he's got to play the force of will. It's just a case of what he wants to pitch.
Yeah, I believe he pitched Brainstorm. So that's a second Thopter Foundry that has not found its way onto the battlefield. And very shortly, DEMARS is going to be at 3. One imagines that Ponder is going to come right up, and Dougherty will hope to find another force of will because that should be pretty much game. If he can find it. Oh, I believe he has.
All right, Commander 10, are you ready to start your event? Commander 10, mediate
He
10.
has found a force of will in the top 3 of Ponder. Of course it stays there. We didn't see it go into his hand, but if that is not force of will, something's gone very badly wrong. Attack for 3. Brian DeMars at 3. And we are very, very close to the end of the game, I would suggest. DeMars draws. Has a look at top, sees a couple of land and a counterspell.
Anthony Wilson.
Nope, you got me.
Anthony Wilson.
So?
Your commander event is waiting on you. Anthony Wilson.
You know, as somebody who plays, has played a fair amount of standard in my time, now, of course, plays a fair amount of EDH, which are, let's call them mana-hungry formats. EDH a little more so than standard, obviously.
Okay.
It's, I almost feel a tension here watching these guys play with one land in play. It's like, if I have one land in play and we're 6 or 7 or 8 turns into a game, I would be scared. I would constantly I guess you got to get used to playing this format, because one land after all those turns just feels so dangerous.
Yeah, and it's a visual thing as well. I won't quite say friend, because we only see each other rarely, but I occasionally go to London pre-releases, and there is a gentleman there who is a visual psychologist, research scientist guy, and we have these little chats about visual perception of the battlefield,
Right.
and how people forget things that are positioned slightly oddly. And that, just as an example, the players who play with land in front of their creatures can be massive to put off an opponent, because they are literally looking from years of experience in the wrong place. It is literally, look over there. Yeah, you've got a Flooded Strand, you've got a this, you've got a Tiger, you've got a Tundra. Yeah, I've also got these guys with protection from blue that are going to kill you. And it's fascinating to just see that. And like you say, that there is a psychological, like, oh my god, I've got one land.
Right. I'm at the edge of disaster here.
Yeah, it's barely more than none.
Yeah.
Whereas in fact, it's only one short from everything you'll ever need.
Right. So both players probably going to some counterbalance action in the cycle.
Okay, so are we heading into sort of counterbalance top action? Do we have? Does Rob have?
He already has
one top, but then 2 more in the board.
Two more in the board.
So he can go into full on. I'm Remy 48.
Yep.
Here's my counterbalance top, and then on the other side, Brian DeMars full 4 counterbalance.
An ensnaring bridge that I saw him actually side in.
Okay, so up from 1 to 2. He's already got the full senses divining top package right there.
He's got a second humility. I can't imagine.
Doesn't seem to do an awful lot, does it?
No.
I mean, it's like, I'm going to turn your kill Snapcaster Mage, kills a Delver when it arrives. I mean, it's not awful, I suppose. It's 4. He never had 4 mana in that game.
Right. Well, yeah, I guess, Rob plays Nimble Mongoose and Tarmogoyf.
So, Nimble Mongoose, under humility, what kind of goes on there in terms of, if you get to threshold?
Doesn't have the ability.
Right, okay, yeah, sure. So
It doesn't.
It's just a 1/1 and 1/1 and 1.
Always think if something's a creature and humility's in play, blank the text box.
Fine. It's nice and easy. That's disappointingly easy. I was looking for, and I was just going to relax for a while as you explained the intricacies of, layers,
right,
for example. It turned out not to be a layer question. It was just like, just scribble out the text box. Oh, fine, it's a 1/1. Yep. So there is Brian 1-0 down to Insectile Aberration beatdown. 3 a turn resulted in death. And this time he will look to actually get a Thopter Foundry into play. He got the sword down, but never managed the Thopter Foundry.
There's the plains to start for DEMARS.
Is that technically a snow-covered plains?
It is.
Yep. It's playing 1 snow-covered plains. I trust that's just to be clear.
Players in the Max Point Bronze Legacy event. Pairings for round
Is how you get a Thopter sword.
very shortly,
Thopter
like
Foundry
5
into play.
seconds.
You do it on turn
Pairings
1,
for Max Point
off a
Bronze
Chrome
Legacy
box.
will be going up very shortly. Thank you.
Did you have a Force of Will, Rob Doherty? No, you didn't. There's my Thopter Foundry.
Raceland Cox, and Connor Nickerson, please report to the side event stage.
So Doherty, with a lot to think about, given that he hasn't had a turn yet. Leyline of the Thopter Foundry.
Yeah, and we see the tutor. We see
Sam Black, by the way, has finished his round. He did not take a turn 2 in that match. So, were you belched out, Sam?
Magic players and the
Bit of red hot
1K
belcher
single
action.
event. Pairings for round number 5
Okay.
will go up right now.
so Doherty brainstorming, resolving it, shipping it. We see the Enlightened Tutor in Brian DEMARS' hand, so Rob Doherty better have some counter magic right here, right now.
Yep. So DEMARS says, I'm going to use my Chrome Mox to make Senses Divining Top. And then another. And off you go. And I think this, if you look at that, took a snapshot right now, that's what you mean by look how exposed you feel. On the right, a land. On the left, Chrome Mox Plains. Third land, Thopter. Double Senses Divining Top. Third mana, not third land. DEMARS in a lot better shape here early in game 2 than he was in game 1, where Doherty had all the answers as the game progressed.
Doherty's doubled his number of lands.
Yep.
And see, the sort of Timmy in me would love to see DEMARS slam March of the Machines on the table and battle with the Sensei's Divine.
Oh, wow. Now, yeah, see, I can appreciate that. That would be fun. Tarmogoyf, however, not a Timmy card,
No.
one would argue. Top for DEMARS sees a Sword of the Meek and a Brainstorm and a land. He will draw into the sword this coming turn. Untap. Top to draw a land. So there's mana number 4. There is Sword of the Meek. Doherty is tapped out and does not appear to have a Force of Will in hand. And now, off we jolly well go. You see that dice? with the whole little one pip on it, that is going to increase, I would imagine.
So, what happens here is Brian announces a number of iterations he'd like to run his combo.
Okay.
And Rob says, okay, well, I'm not going to interrupt any of those.
So on this occasion, it's a guy.
Of course, one of the significant parts of Thopter Foundry's ability
Magic players in the 1K sealed event.
is the life gain.
Welcome to round number 5. You have 50 minutes and you may begin.
So, Doherty having a look. Had a couple of ancient grudges in the sideboard.
Tolerable with just the 2-3 right now?
Well, looks about right. Yep. And now 2 mana from Doherty. Yep, and there is Ancient Grudge for the Thopter Foundry. So, DEMARS will spend his last mana to make a guy. So although he had it in play on turn 1, it hasn't done a ton of damage, either literal or figurative, to Doherty. If I've done the math correctly, by Sandbike losing that round and going to 6 and 2, that means we will have at least one Goblin Charbelcher deck in day 2 at 7 and 1. I like Belcher. A real man's deck.
Yeah, imagine just playing with one land.
That's right.
That really is hanging it all out there.
You'd be devastated if you had a land in play.
Yeah.
Not quite, but... So DEMARS still with that Enlightened Tutor that he's had pretty much from the get-go. Doherty, now having got rid of the Thopter Foundry, draws up to a 5th card in hand. Has Ancient Grudge lurking in his graveyard, ready to resume hostilities.
But he's going to think about things first.
Yep. Now he has Force of Will in hand. He's got a Senses Divining
A couple of reminders. First, we are still taking signups for booster drafts and winner boxes and Commander. Also, we will start taking registration at 9 a.m. tomorrow for the 1K TCG Player Max Point event. That is a legacy tournament. Tomorrow morning,
Rob Dougherty with the top
Bridget 9 starts
of
at
his
10.
own now.
Everybody, please remember to change your clocks this evening. Unfortunately, you'll be losing an hour of sleep.
Top reveals some stuff that he decides he doesn't want, so he cracks his Flooded Strand.
Yep.
Shuffles it away. It's like Rob Daugherty responding to that by cracking a fetch land of his own. Another tropical island for Rob Daugherty. Off the misty rainforest. And then a stifle. Brian Mars is going to then cast that at Enlightened Tutor. Rob Daugherty thinks about the counterspell, decides to let him tutor for it first. He's going to have to, the thing is, he's going to have to reveal it. I mean, is there a line of play here suggesting, since DEMARS topped, decided he didn't like him enough to fetch land him away, that you just counter the Enlightened Tutor and stick him with the cards that he had that he didn't particularly like?
Yeah, you didn't want them, well, you can have them.
Yeah, it seems at least there's that consideration. I'm
Sure.
not sure if it's the be-all and end-all right play, but
I mean, part of that is, it's a tempo play, isn't it? So you look at DEMARS at 17 and say, how big is my Tarmogoyf? How big a deal would it be if one card was blank and the second card was pretty ordinary,
right.
And, you know.
Mars untaps, puts the counterbalance back on top. And there he's going to cast it. Rob Daugherty is going to probably crack a fetch land so that he can top again.
Yeah, there goes Flooded Strand.
And certainly if he has a blue card, he's going to put the top on and counter this counterbalance. Unless yeah, I suppose you can't. We're early enough, at least in the life total part of the game, where you just don't want him to have top and counterbalance, despite the fact that he's got an empty hand. Rob's going to look at the top three. See a Ponder and a Wasteland. For a second, looked like it could have been a Thran Quarry, but nobody's playing.
What? It's like from a Urza's block?
Yeah. Bolt the Bird. That's where Bolt the Bird comes from. Thran Quarry, tap it for a Bird of Paradise. You bolt the bird.
Okay. So Doherty says, how about no? Because in the counter-top deck, when you had counter and top, that was kind of awkward.
Right.
For opponents. So how about you just have the top bit of counter-top? Seems very reasonable.
Yeah.
Standard Winnabox number 13. Standard Winnabox number 13, please head to the meeting point to the left of the registration area. Standard Winnabox number 13, your event is ready to start. Please meet at the meeting place to the left of registration.
Rob's is gonna start bashing now. Obviously, he's gonna play on top. DEMARS' hand's empty. Looks like Rob's got a little bit of burn there in his hand.
Which is going to get used on the one creature DEMARS has, and the Tarmogoyf will send in, which will do a quick count.
3. 4 because you have enchantment over here.
Yeah, land instant enchantment artifact.
I should take DEMARS to 13. I don't know the counterbalance.
Looks like he's down to 12, so I'll make
Jason
total
Walk,
rate
come to
5,
the
6.
stage, please. Jason
There's
Walk,
another
come to the
counterbalance.
stage, please.
Dougherty looks. Is going to spend 1 on Senses Divining Top. There is no force of will in the 3 he's just looked at. A wasteland amongst them. I think Counterbalance Top may be about to go live for DEMARS.
The thing for Rob is he may not need to cast another spell to win this game.
Potentially, I mean, it's a huge threat.
He's going to bolt them in response.
Yeah, so that's
So
short
now he
the
only needs
clock.
2 turns.
Yep. So countertop is in operation.
So we know DEMARS 2 lands on top. Tundra gets wastelanded. He's going to look at the top 3. There's a Force of Will and 2 lands.
That's no way
This
you
is
want.
Standard
that
Rock
is
for 13,
game,
Eric
ladies and gentlemen. I'm
Morat
not sure
and Deshaun
if there's
Baylock.
anything that Brian DEMARS can do
From
here.
standard Winterbox number 13, Eric Morat
Short
and
of-
Deshaun Baylock. Your event is waiting on
Short
you.
of hoping to Jedi Mind Trick Rob into not attacking. He's going to make him work for it, though.
So hopefully, if Rob does win this, we'll get Rob Dougherty into the booth. And Brainstorm. So that's what DEMARS does. He puts the Senses Divining Top back on top. Casts Brainstorm. Sees Force of Will, Senses Divining Top, land. Just puts that out. Yeah, shrugs and says, there we go.
And 2-0, Rob Dougherty.
And that puts him to within a win of day 2. Functionally eliminates Brian DEMARS from day 2 action, I do believe.
So we'll have a minute.